So after your spirits have returned, you'll get like a small white rope that ties on your wrist, which is a very significant thing in Thailand called saisin. You will see it in a lot of things. It's like a very, very, very special rope.
Mm-hmm. Hi guys, welcome to LoveCast the BL podcast. I am your host Alexa, and I have my fellow host Kayla with me today.
Hey.
We're also joined by a familiar face. Our friend and interpreter Gam is with us.
Hi guys.
Yay. So it is our annual Halloween episode, and we thought this was kind of a perfect time to set aside an episode to talk about Khemjira, which, if you don't know, it is the horror adjacent BL that has kind of taken over the hearts of both BL fans and mainstream viewers of the show. So we're going to explore why we think this series has become such a hit, and we're also going to take an in-depth look at some of the religious and supernatural and horror elements that have all like come together to create the show. So this trio, you see us a lot for the interviews, but I feel like this is the first time we've had Gam on for like a regular episode. So
Yeah.
you'll get to see a little bit more of our dynamic, a casual dynamic, our non-interview dynamic.
Yeah, it'd probably be more relaxing than the interview because I would always be
Just a little bit.
stressing.
There's no pressure in the regular episodes. But on that note, we will put a disclaimer that we are going to be asking Gam her perspective on a lot of different elements of Khemjira as a Thai viewer of the show. But of course, to note, Gam is only one perspective. She's only one Thai person. And a lot of these things that we'll be discussing have like different meanings to different people, can have different significance depending on how people interpret them. So we just wanted to give a disclaimer that Gam's perspective and her experiences that she'll kind of be sharing with us are just her own and aren't like representative of all of Thailand or anything like
Yeah.
that. So, if you are not watching Khemjira, this is going to be a very spoiler heavy episode, of course. So, if you're planning to watch the series and don't want to get spoiled about some of the more in depth elements of it, I would recommend maybe coming back to this at a later date. But for those who might be curious, Khemjira is a story about a boy named Khemjira, or Khem, who is born into this long-standing family curse. And the curse is essentially that any son that is born in this family will die before they reach the age of 21. So Khem, wanting to survive and kind of beat this curse, ends up following his best friend to his hometown to work with this renowned shaman who he thinks might be able to save him. And as he works with this shaman, Paran, they kind of realize they have a deeper connection and things develop from there, as all BLs do. And it is based on a novel, adapted from a novel called Khemjira Must Survive. So I figured before we get into the more like supernatural and religious discussion around the show, I just kind of wanted to start with talking about the reception that Khemjira has been receiving, because it's kind of become a phenomenon for both like international BL viewers, Thai BL viewers, and just like the general media watching audience in Thailand. So it's broken like a lot of different records and has recorded some huge achievements. And this week, as of the time we're recording this, episode 11 hasn't come out yet. So everything we'll be discussing will be up to episode 10 so far. But some of the records that we've seen Khemjira achieve, it has the highest average Nielsen rating for any Damundi show that has aired so far. So that's like a combination of all the episodes that have aired so far. Its average rating is the highest for any Damundi show. For episode 10, there were nearly 8 million uses of the hashtags and keywords on social media, which we know engagement is a huge thing now, but that is a pretty big number for, like, not a lot of shows are getting up to 8 million engagement uses for the keywords and stuff. And it's basically topping IG's most watch list every single week on the platform. So it's receiving a lot of praise, and a lot of the actors are receiving a lot of praise. Many people are saying this is the best work that Damundi has done to date in terms of like production, writing, and storytelling. So I just kind of wanted to pose a question to start. Why do you guys think Khemjira is being received so well with such a large audience?
Um, I'll start. I feel like after Ging as well, him being in a big four movie with Jeff Sauter, Paradise of Thorn, he receives quite a lot of attention from the media, being in multiple fashion shows or being a fashion icon with his, I would say, unique face in especially Thai industry. But I think the reason it picked up quite a bit is because Khemjira was one of the best-selling novels in Thailand, and people had a lot of expectations moving forward to it, especially after Dumandi buying the rights to it. After I think a company did a pilot on it, so the reason people had so many expectations and it gaining a lot of popularity, not only because the actors are very well on and off screen, but I feel like the series is talking about a side of Thailand where I would say not very well represented, because sometimes Ubon Ratchathani, or what where Khemjira is based, sometimes it's not a place where when you say Thailand, it would represent that. You would see beaches, you
Mm-hmm.
would see cities, but you're not gonna see Ubon Ratchathani. So that's why I feel like Kendra kind of hooked audiences with Thai culture, because there are so many things in this series where we've seen growing up, we've seen everyone in the country have, but maybe it's not seen on social media or international media.
I think for international fans, a lot of people have been kind of tired of some of the production quality of shows being a bit lower than they expect. So, the thing that I've seen a lot of people talk about with Khemjira is that you can tell there's a lot of attention to detail and care put into the production aspects of it. It certainly doesn't feel like they rushed to make it, which I think is the vibe comparatively that a lot of people are thinking about it from. And also, I mean, there's so many elements. There's like, I think people are really liking the acting performances in the show as well. But I mean, the story too. The story is just like a good story in general. And I think that even for people who haven't read the novel, I don't know. I just feel like the production aspect is the biggest reason why a lot of international fans are being drawn to it. And then the story over time is holding up in terms of like the pacing, the storytelling, the character development, even the relationship development. Like a lot of people don't like slow burn, like infamously, but people who don't like slow burn have been really invested in this show. It's kind of like their exception to that trope. So I think there are just a lot of elements like that that draw the international fan base to the show, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people weren't expecting it to be at the level that it's at. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember after production wise, I mean, I remember after the first episode aired, a lot of people were commenting on like the horror elements specifically, and a lot of like the special effects and stuff like that, that they didn't expect things to look so realistic and so compelling and things like that. So I think kind of to your point, Kayla, especially from an international perspective, we're used to like not having as high quality, and especially when it comes to shows that require like more effects and more makeup and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, which goes into the horror and supernatural elements. Like you can tell like when not as much time or resources are available to be put into those. So I think a lot of people were kind of hesitant after the first episode, and then kind of seeing the production value of that first episode were drawn in, and then from there, like I think the story just kind of took it. Like I think I've seen a lot of people saying, I read the novel earlier this year, so I don't remember as many of the details, but I feel like the show has done a really good job of keeping the essence of the characters and like the spirit of the story, even if they can't include as many of the details, and even if it's not quite the same pacing as the novel, because the novel was, talk about slow burn, the novel was about as slow burn as it can
The
get.
Mm-hmm.
novel was literally, I would say, half of it was just Paran hating on Kim.
Yeah, yeah. The novel was
Yeah.
a lot more of that struggle, that internal struggle he was having over his feelings and his relationship to Kem. But I think, despite having to change the pacing and adjust things, because obviously it's a TV show, it's kept faithful to a lot of those core elements, which I think makes
Mm-hmm.
it stand out as well. So,
Mm-hmm. I
yeah.
also think that whenever people hear that this story is about ghosts, we again kind of compare it to what we've seen. This is like also having to do with the special effects, because a lot of shows we've seen that have supernatural elements, they end up making the show feel a bit campy, where like
Mm-hmm.
you can't really take it seriously because it just looks like things are done in an amateur type way in terms of the special effects and the makeup. But I think this show, something else I was really impressed by as an international fan was that special effects and especially the makeup. I really like the
Mm-hmm.
makeup special effects.
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially with the perception of a Thai person, when we talk about ghosts, that's what we kind of think about. So
Mm-hmm.
we're not gonna think about like The Exorcist or something, which like
Mm-hmm.
an international fan
Yeah.
would realize what it looks like. But for me personally, it would be a woman in a Thai traditional clothing standing next to
Right.
a banana tree, pitani, or something like that. Or it talks
Mm-hmm.
about a lot of aspects where what Thai people believe. So that's why it feels so realistic, because it talks about someone or something that we always thought it was true, and it looks real in the series.
Yeah, and I feel like at the end of the day, it just offers something different. A lot of shows reuse a lot of the same tropes, a lot of the same elements, a lot of the same story beats. So Khemjira coming in with this slow burn story that is tied into spiritual elements and supernatural elements and some horror elements as well. I think it's just really appealing to all audiences, and the fact that it has been so well done so far from the production and acting and writing standpoint is just making it hit home more and more each week.
Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely hits very close to home for me.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's been really interesting to read, from what I've seen translated and stuff like that. Like how Thai people have received like some of the stories that, especially with like the stories around the locals. Like I've seen a lot of interesting perspectives about how those stories have been perceived by Western viewers versus like Thai viewers who are watching that. So yeah, it's just been really, really interesting to see how this story has been received by people. So now, kind of getting into the meat of the episode, we wanted to explore more in depth some of the supernatural and religious elements that we've seen throughout the show. Kind of take a look at what they mean, how they've been portrayed in the show. So Kayla she skimmed through the episodes and kind of pulled some of the more significant like supernatural elements or rituals, things like that that we've seen. So we're kind of just going to talk about those a little bit more in depth and the role that they play in the story. So the first episode, we really see setting up a lot of the big elements that are going to be at play throughout the story. We learn about Kem's curse and how he doesn't want to partake in this ritual that can prevent him from seeing ghosts because he wants to be able to see his mom and be visited by his mom when he passes away. We also see that later on in Kem's life, he after his mom passes, his dad becomes a monk. So that also kind of brings an element of Buddhism into the story. So, can we talk a little bit about what role Buddhism does play in Khemjira?
I think just from what I read so far, so I haven't watched BL for a long time, but I've started
Mm,
watching. So I'm one of the mainstream viewers who started Khemjira because it gained so many popularities, and I read the book as well. So what I understand is that when Kim's mother died, she was still around Kim to protect him from Rampung, or the evil spirit who's trying to take Kim's life in the show. However, the father who was a monk haven't really explained why he became a monk in the series. But I think in the book he mentioned that the reason he became a monk is because he wanted to add more time to his son's life.
yeah.
So to study Buddhism, you have to be when if you want to be a monk, you want to be a monk, you have to be a male. So you can't. So there are so many rules to follow to become like a very like how a very respectable monk. So I feel like in this series, making merits is shown quite significantly, especially when we see when Kim visits his mom's I would say grave, when he plays like a lot of stuff. He brings food and there's like an incense on it. That's the element where we give the people who die or passes like food or water or gifts, that what we wanted to show them. And Kim's dad having good and bad how much is so they have their own beliefs, but I feel like the reason he became a monk is because Kim could live on his life longer, have more protection. But if Kim didn't have a dad who was a monk, there wouldn't be any signs of like him doing bad karma or anything, because Kim showed quite the actions he did while in episode one, helping the little boy or stuff. Good karma in it's like good karma in like in Thai beliefs as well, where he does good things and good things return to him. That's what's Thai belief. So what you did, what good things you've done, it will return back to you. If you've done bad things, it will return to you. That's what
Yeah.
I think the show plays a concept of in its entirety.
Yeah, because the whole this is I guess kind of jumping ahead, but the whole basis of Kem's curse is because of this karmic enemy that his bloodline basically established like hundreds of years ago because of what they did to Rampung when she's alive. So the reason he is cursed is because of that karmic, I don't know if karmic debt is the right word, almost that his
Mhm.
bloodline Rampung feels that his bloodline owes to her, which is why she is trying to take from his family in every lifetime what was taken from her. So yeah, the element of good and bad karma I feel like is almost kind of the whole basis of the story, and I feel like it almost creates a lot of argument because I've seen a lot of people saying what you're saying, that Kem is a good person, like he himself has built a lot of good karma, so he doesn't deserve what Rampung is doing to him, but because his bloodline has this buildup of bad karma that she has held against them for
Mhm.
so long, like that's what she's taking out against Kem.
So the argument goes, like the one I've seen so many people have talked about, is because it's not his bloodline. It's Kim himself. So Kim being reborn in every single time, Rampung will go after Kim only. She's not gonna go after. it plays the role of like bloodlines, but it's really just Kim reincarnating in each time. That's what I
Right.
understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the argument that people say that Kim in her past life did something wrong, but the Kim in the present time shouldn't deserve it would be something reasonable
Mm-hmm.
if if Rampung wasn't very like badly accused, because
Mm-hmm.
Kim, I'm jumping ahead a little bit in the episodes.
Yeah.
So Kim really didn't accuse Rampung of anything. He was ordered to in the past lives
Lie, basically. Yeah.
to lie. So technically, it's bad karma, but I don't think the present Kim deserves the
Right.
mistake that like the younger version of like 100 years ago did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You almost think the debt would have been paid off, almost. That karmic debt would have already been gone, I guess. Maybe the good would have outweighed, but I guess just the pain that Rampung endured just lives on through the bad karma.
It's like the
Mm.
depth of a mother's love and loss kind of
Yeah.
exemplified through how long her grievances have held up.
I think it's reasonable, but to
Yeah.
compare it to like trying to kill someone at the age of 21, I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah, it's definitely like you can like once again like we're kind of like jumping around a little bit, but it's like I understand her like in her pain and where it comes from, but it's like at the same time it's like yeah, Kem in 2025 like did not like does not deserve that wrath. So you really see both perspectives, I think, and where every side of the story comes from, and I think the show is doing a good job of showing all of the perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, we did jump a little bit ahead, but one of the other like significant things we see in episode 1 of the story, when they eventually end up in Paran's village, Jet's hometown village, basically one of the first things they see when they get off the bus is Paran performing an exorcism on one of the villagers, which exorcisms are things we see in a lot of horror media. I think most people would probably be familiar. Of course, they're different across like spiritualities. Like I think like a Catholic exorcism is going to be different than the exorcism we see Paran performing in this series and things like that. Have either of you guys ever been involved with or seen an exorcism? Because I have not, aside from in media.
Um, I seen. I would bring up one situation I could say. So, I've seen glimpses of it. So when I
Mm-hmm.
visit outside of Thailand, I remember when I was really really young, they did an exorcism at a temple. So a monk did. I'm not sure. A monk was present definitely because it was like a
Mm-hmm.
Thai Buddhist temple. But I didn't see a shaman, but I feel like there would be one there. The how was I say? The man who was possessed,
Mm-hmm.
who seemed possessed, was yelling. So it's very common in Thailand, but it depends on how you view it. So
Mm.
sometimes it feels like a possession, but realistically it's somewhat of like hallucination from drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
in stubborn parts of Thailand, sometimes that's what people perceive it as. If
Mm.
there's drug involvement, this is just my perspective of things. If there's drug involvement or I would say PTSD of a certain
Mm-hmm.
situation, sometimes it reflects out as unusual and unnormal.
Mm-hmm.
That's where people kind of say that it's like, okay, you might be possessed and you have to see a shaman.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
that's usually how I see it. When I witnessed it the first time, it was it was done in a closed space, so I did not see the whole entirety like what Paran did. But it was clear that like so many people were invested in helping the man getting rid of the spirits within him.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I while you were talking, I was thinking of like not that I've experienced personally, but I know what one thing you see here with like a lot of like like extremely religious practices, like very very devout hardcore Christian or whatever they might be practices, is like people say they're possessed by the Holy Spirit. And like you will see people kind of like exhibiting those, like if they're in a, it's usually in a church setting, and like they're surrounded by a big crowd of people, and like you see these people like they're like writhing on the ground, or they're saying like things that they're saying have been told to them by the Holy Spirit. And I think it is like kind of a similar thing, like from an outsider perspective, you're seeing that person often, especially if you're not religious and you're saying like, oh, like we can kind of understand what's going on here. But like for the people who are there in that moment, and like especially the person experiencing it, like they almost think like something good is happening to them, that like the Holy Spirit is like speaking through them.
Mm.
So I think that's just like an interesting, I don't know what the right word is, counter example almost, of where in some religious cultures here, like being possessed by a Holy Spirit is like almost like God speaking through you, and it's like something that's seen, can be seen as an honor if it happens to you.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you view it. For me personally, I believe that it might happen for some people, but if I ask someone from like a younger generation, they would say, "Oh, it's just
Right.
yeah." But
Yeah.
for me, I feel like I'm not gonna say it's not true because I
Right.
can't prove it, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna judge someone who believes it as well. Especially in Thailand, some parts of Thailand are known to be very, very possessive. I wouldn't say possessive, but like the ghosts in that area, I'm not gonna step into that kind of thing.
Mm.
They're ready to possess people.
Yeah, I'm not playing with those kind of things.
Yeah, no, why even try? Yeah, I think I'm along the same lines as you, Gam, because even though, I mean, you guys know I am superstitious, I've seen things, I believe in all of that, but I think because, like, the depictions of exorcism that I've seen have been, like, through, like, an almost, like, Christian propaganda lens,
It's exactly it.
I kind of fail to believe in them because I don't believe in any of the other things associated with the religion, like God or things like that. So that's the part of me where I'm like, I don't really know if this is just propaganda. But
It's
again, like
exactly it. Yeah.
that is me just like seeing it through, I guess, that lens, both in the media and in real life.
Yeah, it's very like personal experience based, because that's kind of like the perspective I've seen, especially who's someone who grew up in the Christian church. Like that was my experience with those kind of like instances. And then as I grew up and like moved away from Christianity, like I kind of got like, I don't know if negative association was the word with it, but I think you're right, Kayla, that in my brain I'm always like, is this propaganda, because of my own personal experiences with the Christian church? But it's like you said, Gam, like it's different based on everyone's experience. And we even like see that in the show, because there are people who very clearly believe that, or don't believe in what Perron's doing. And even Charn initially is like, hey, are we being like drawn into some cult because they performed an exorcism as soon as we got off the bus? And of course, Charn's perspective changes as he spends time with Perron and Kem and Jet. But we see like the other, those troublemaker students at the camp who throughout the whole thing are very doubtful of everything that Perron does and all of the rituals that he performs. So it's definitely like based on one's own perspectives and beliefs, I think.
Definitely.
One of the biggest, I think, I don't know, I guess one of the biggest supernatural elements that we've seen as a constant throughout the show are the amulets that Kem and Piran got from Piran's grandfather. So Kem's is the one he wears around his neck, and Piran wears his on his wrist, and we kind of have seen them as almost protective amulets. They Kem, up until like the point where the series starts, like his amulet had been like the thing that had been helping to ward spirits off from him, and then we see, of course, as his 21st birthday gets closer and the curse gets stronger, like the amulet is not working the same way it used to. And then Piran's is also kind of has the same effects that we've seen. We've seen him give it to Kem to give him extra protection and things like that. And Damundi did put, like, they have released these graphics throughout the airing of the show that kind of explain, like, some of these spiritual elements that they are including. And they did put out a graphic for this one, but it's the only one that they didn't put out an English translation for, I guess because it was the first one that they released and they didn't realize that the international fans would want that information really. So they did put out like a graphic explaining it, but I don't know, Gam, if you can, like, if you have any reference for that graphic or like the significance of the amulets if they have shown them throughout the show.
Um, I could give my explanation on it. I read the paper, the post that Dumandi posted in Thai, and I was wondering why wasn't it in English? I was thinking about translating it myself, but rather give that job to Dumandi. But
Right. If they
so
want to hire you, maybe.
yeah, maybe I still need a job, like a full-time job, but I'm with LoveCast now, so I translated for LoveCast viewers. So in the show, in Thai we call it takut. It's a very important amulet for people who believe in like supernatural beings. It would be the marbles, whatever. So we're gonna talk about Paran ones first. So he wears it around his wrist.
Mm-hmm.
I have one around like my wrist as well. I'm not sure where it is, but usually there's a small. Have you seen like the small container on it that is shown in the series?
Mm-hmm.
So in that, it's a piece of like metal that
Mm-hmm.
has been purified by someone who has a power to. In this case, would be Paran's, I would say, grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a lot of benefits in Buddhism. So more the more wealth, more love, you will be loved by multiple people, you have more jobs, or even the belief that like if you're shot or being shot at, you won't die. Or being stabbed.
Mm-hmm.
So even physical harm, you won't be like harmed. Similar to the tattoos behind his back as well. It's similar meaning, similar uses, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But in the series, it shows that Kim has one around his neck and Pran has one around his wrist. So you can wear it both ways. But people kind of mention that it's for protection of the unnatural beings.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't always mean that in if you want to buy a takut in Thailand, it's quite easy. But it will be customized just for you.
Mm.
Because not everyone is born on the same day, same time,
Right.
same date. So I think it goes based off that because when mine was being done, they asked for the time I was born, the date I was born, the month, when was the sun, when was the there's so many things
Mm-hmm.
going into that because it's customized for your own protection. So it doesn't mean that like you can just go to a temple and buy it. It might not work the same, but it depends on how you believe it to be.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. Obviously, Kem needs a lot of extra protection in his life with what he's going through. But yeah, like someone else who has an amulet might definitely probably would not need what Kem needs. So yeah, that makes sense. It's
And
very interesting.
the other reason why Dumandi hasn't posted a translation of this is because there's a name. I'm gonna say in Thai. So ยันพุทธซ้อนและยันพระเจ้าห้าพระองค์ so these two are the things that are inside the amulet, so in this case, so it would be the spell that's put in this amulet, so it's quite a big name in the
Yeah,
amulet industry, I believe. So I think that's why Dumandi hasn't reposted it in English, because these names might mean differently with some people.
right. Right. That makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah, so those amulets are significant throughout the entire run of the show so far, but they were introduced to us in episode 1, of course. Moving into episode 2, and some of the spiritual elements that we see in that episode that are significant. We see Perron's grandfather perform a ritual where he cuts his hand. We know Perron's grandfather, I think from what they said in the series, like dabbled with black magic as opposed to Perron, who he very emphatically said needs to stick with only white magic. And I remember that being a big element in the novel as well. But from what I remember that scene, he was like cutting his hand to release like it almost seemed like he was releasing negative energy, because he was also like coughing up
Yeah.
blood and stuff like that. So that was one of the rituals that we saw him perform. Episode 2, the big storyline in that episode was the village couple where the husband is abusing his wife. And the students think that the husband is possessed because they don't see him as someone who would typically be abusive. They think he's a very nice guy. But in the end, the wife is actually the one who has been possessed. And the spirit who possessed her kind of uses the already existing resentment the wife had against the husband for being abusive to kind of almost fuel her. And I don't know if it made it easier for the spirit to possess her, but the spirit basically said she was just taking the rage that the wife already had and basically amplifying that when she possessed her. And we see Perron perform an exorcism on the woman to remove that spirit. This was one of the ones where I think had a lot of interesting commentary from fans about, like, obviously domestic violence is a very sensitive topic, but you know, because it kind of told the story of, like, it's almost like, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. Like, the assumption was that this nice man who is always so kind to the students had to be possessed because there was no way he would be abusing his wife.
So
But in the end,
there would
like,
be like a normal explanation to it, probably.
right, exactly. They're like, this can't be something he's just doing normally. But in the end, like, it was just him. Like, that was just something he was doing to his wife. And like, it kind of speaks to, and there's been a couple of, like, even with the other woman down the line with her baby, where Kem assumes she's possessed, but it's just her acting naturally. Like, there's been a couple of times that the story has commented on, like, nature, like, I guess people's nature. And obviously, like, this man who is abusive is bad in nature, but I guess the story making commentary on just how people's nature can be more, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say evil, because that's not the word. I guess darker than people would expect it to be, if that makes sense. So I feel like that was one of the big takeaways of that storyline. And even though there was like a possession involved, that the wife was possessed in the end by one of Rampung's like subordinates, like, the story itself was about human nature almost.
Yeah, especially that instance, I kind of read it as maybe a commentary. I don't know if they were doing this deliberately, but a commentary on like postpartum depression and kind of how, like, and when you're in that situation, you may think in ways and act in ways that you wouldn't normally. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
they're looking at her and thinking, oh, she's possessed because she's never acted this way before, or like seemed distant
Mm-hmm.
from the baby. But she's actually probably just depressed because she had a lot going on,
Mm-hmm.
and it made her act out in that way.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm not someone who has ever experienced postpartum, but just hearing people's own experiences with it, like there was that moment where Kem calls out her behavior and he's like, "Why are you acting this way?" And she's like, "Well, how am I acting?" Because like in her brain, like
Right.
I think people didn't understand like the pain, especially with her fuck ass boyfriend who had two girlfriends and got both of them pregnant and then just decided to marry the one his family liked.
I
But
think
you know, like,
I think it wasn't the two girlfriends kind of thing. I think it was like he was forced to marry the other girl that his family
mm,
liked, and then got her pregnant for some reason. So I don't understand why the fuck he did that, but
just yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was still like Prawn said, very selfish. But yeah, I think you're right that like his family wanted him to marry the person he actually married because I think he said originally the woman with the baby was like the other woman, like his other girlfriend, and then he ended up marrying like that person that his family wanted. But you know, she was like in this moment, like, "Hey, what's wrong with me? Like, what are you saying is wrong with me? Because these are very valid feelings that I'm feeling after as someone who just had a baby. That the person who fathered that baby has basically abandoned us and all of this stuff." So yeah, it's definitely some interesting commentary on mental health even with the wife who was, you know, being abused because, you know, Kem in the end seeing them briefly reconcile was like, hey, like love prevailed. We fixed their relationship. And Paran was like, it's really like not that simple. Like, yes, she might have forgiven him in the moment after, you know, breaking the possession, but that doesn't necessarily mean the relationship will work out in the long run or that it's going to be fixed in the long run. So,
I think it depends on how you view the situation. Because
mm-hmm,
when I watched it, because I would say I'm still not knowledgeable in a lot of stuff. So
mm,
postpartum and stuff, I'm still on the side where like I never been through it, so I didn't
mm-hmm,
fully understand it. But when I watch the show, I think the like what I said in the beginning, things that can't be explained are deemed possessed. So the same thing happened in this situation as well with even the man who was abusing his wife, no one had explanation to it, so he was deemed possessed. A woman who's going through postpartum is deemed possessed. So it feels like it's a reflection of like how mental or things that seem unusual in society are deemed in outside of Thailand.
Yeah, I think there's also a bit of a spotlight. Again, I don't know if it's intentional, but on like the idea of women being hysterical, like hysteria,
mm-hmm.
and kind of like acting irrationally because they are more emotional, like that stereotype. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it really can be interpreted in different ways. Also, in episode two, that is when we first meet Tong and Ek, who are the two little kids that we see who kind of are Piran's spirit guides. They are almost like his little assistants, kind of. They watch over him. They help him watch over the village and protect the village. And they have a specific title that now I am completely blanking on, like the Thai.
Kuman.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, so the Kuman, is this like a prevalent concept, like the concept of spirit guides in Thai culture?
So I would say yes. It's very accurately shown from what I
Mm-hmm.
believe. It's definitely what I believe Kuman would look like.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to say first what is Kuman. So Kuman is a little spirit that you
Mm-hmm.
are like you can keep them as pets in Like you can keep them as like your pets or your slave. I wouldn't say
Like
slave. Yeah,
companions, maybe, kind of.
kind of. I'm sorry if I used the wrong word,
No, that's okay.
but it they would be like a protector for you, so you can order them around if you have enough power, like Paran. So Tong and so they won't grow up. They are little spirits who are children in the form of these magical or very powerful kids. So I think that people believe it quite a lot. Sometimes even people close to me in my family have said that in like suburban parts of Thailand they have seen these little children asking for like sweet drinks, bubble tea or soda, or they claim they have seen it. I never personally seen one, but I believe that they do exist in like Thai culture because we see them a lot in Thailand. We see them all over the place in the little shrines in next to a big tree, or you know, we see their statues everywhere. So it's not uncommon to kind of realize they do exist, in my opinion. And the show really did a good job portraying, especially the two kids who played it. They really did a good job doing it because I loved it so much.
They're so good.
Yeah, the acting was on point. I loved it so much. Shout outs to them. But I love that Paran treats them like not children. So you might see that Paran doesn't really he does yell at them to do stuff for him, but when it comes to punishing the two, he still uses a stick too, which is very common in Thailand, especially as an older generation being threatened with like a long stick that like I'm gonna hit you. It's
Yeah.
very common. So it's not like abuse, it's like a teaching method for me personally.
Yeah.
Even and with my parents as well.
It's like when I was young, like my parents used to threaten me with the belt. It's like you're gonna get the belt if you don't behave. Like that's like an American cultural equivalent, I feel.
Yeah, similar to Thai. I know it's not accepted in society nowadays that okay, it's abuse, it's child abuse. This is not right, but when it was shown in the series, it felt close to home. It felt that the director put it in as like, oh wow, I reconciled with these children.
Yeah, it's even
Yeah.
like he even uses it on Jet at one point. And obviously like Jet is an adult, but Jet kind of mentions like he kind of like references that this is something that used to happen to him when he was a kid. Like, you know, if he was misbehaving, he used to get like the stick from Puran. And of course, Jet in that moment is like, hey, this is kind of sentimental. Like, I kind of missed this happening. And so, yeah, like, no, it's not necessarily something we would do now, but I have that same like nostalgia. I don't know if nostalgia is the right word, but it's like it's a part of your youth and like how you experience growing up.
It's like your
And especially with
childhood,
like,
yeah.
yeah, especially with like the little spirits being like hundreds of years old, like as far as we know. Like I'm sure it'd be even more familiar to them than anyone else in the show, really. So, yeah. You had mentioned when you were talking about them, like the spirit houses, like the little outdoor shrines, and we see them in Khemjira, but I feel like we've also seen them in a lot of BLs. Like we have seen instances of obviously other BLs that have supernatural elements, but even BLs that aren't necessarily supernatural in nature, we have seen characters going to the shrines to kind of pray and stuff like that. What is the significance of, or I guess, can you explain a little bit about the concept of the shrines and leaving the offerings and things like that?
Hmm. So I think both of you have visited Thailand before, so I would have to ask you as well, do you see them around Thailand often?
I
Everywhere, I
remember
feel.
seeing them. Yeah, I remember seeing them when we were in Thailand for sure.
So We would call it San Papum. So it's like a house for for spirits in the area to stay in. So even Kim's house, where they have one on top of his building, it's used. You will see that it's like a little house. Sometimes there will be statues of horses or guan or something, and then people would give them namdang or like the soda, the red soda you always see in Thailand, the red and green soda, or the coffee or food or snack. Sometimes it mostly would be sweets because guan are children, so they would love sweets. So putting a shrine in an area means that that place would be protected by like a holy spirit or the spirit who lives there. So when you want something or maybe to get a concert ticket, you would go to the area that the concert ticket venue or where you want to get the concert ticket and say, please just let me get it and I'll give you a soda or something like that. It's like you're asking the it's like you're asking the spirit who is the owner of the house to take care of you.
Yeah.
But it could be used in the wrong way. I'm gonna leave it at that because I know you have some parts that I want to talk about in the next few questions. I believe that it could be used to house other things that are not good for you if it's not done right with the rituals.
Yeah. It makes sense. Okay, so yeah, we jumped ahead a little bit talking about the spirit houses. I just, since you had mentioned them, talking about Tong and Ek, I thought it would make sense to bring them up there. But moving back to some of the rituals that we see in episode 3, we see two significant ones. In episode 3, we see Paran perform the ritual to bring the rain essentially in the village. And this is one of the ones that Damandi had also placed or released like one of these graphics for. And this one did have an English translation, and they called it the Heaven and Earth worship ritual. And they essentially said that it's to bring good fortune and blessing to the people of the community, like by connecting them to heaven and earth. And they talk more about like the specific offerings that are on the table and specifically what Paran is saying and what he's saying means, which I thought was really cool that they went into that detail. But yeah, so that one they essentially called the Heaven and Earth worship ritual. I don't know if that's the official. Is that the official?
Yeah, yeah. It if you're translating directly from the Taiwan, it's definitely that.
Yeah. So that one's kind of like seems like another like way to protect and bring good. I don't know if merit's the right word to the community.
It's like to bless the entire community more or less.
Blessing.
Yeah, to connect the earth of that area to to
To
God, yeah, to the spirits, the higher to like heaven.
that makes sense. And then the other significant ritual that we see in episode 3 is Grandma C performing the ritual to bring Prey's vital force or her spirit back to her body. So this one I remember it's shown a lot in the show, but this one was super prevalent in the novel. Like they talked about vital force a lot and kind of like this how easy it is to lose like your quan or your spirit. And it's the same thing that happens in episode was it episode 5 or 6 with the woman and her baby. We see Grandma C performing that ritual as well there. So they kind of show that it can happen for different reasons. Like with Prey, she had gotten spooked by this forest spirit, and that kind of spooked her spirit out of her body. And then with I feel so bad I'm forgetting the name of the woman in the later episode with the baby, but her spirit had left her body to like linger around her boyfriend basically. So they kind of show that like there's different ways or reasons why your spirit might leave your body or your vital force might leave your body, but Grandma C is kind of like the person in the village who is renowned for being able to call those spirits back and bring them back to the person they belong to.
So the name in Thai is Chon Kwan. I'm just opening the Thai version of it to
Yeah.
get information right. I Kwan, also a Thai name, but usually when you say Sean Kwan, Kwan means something rested in your body. So I think it's your spirit most of the time. So when your spirit was spooked out of your body in this Sean Kwan ceremony would be something to bring yourself back. So it's it's very, I never seen it happen. First of all, I never witnessed a real life experience on it, but I know it's very common for some people to do this, and then they would put like a rope, saisin, on your wrist to make sure that your spirit still rests with you. So after your spirit's half return, you'll get like a small white rope that ties on your wrist, which is a very significant thing in Thailand called saisin. You will see it in a lot of things. It's like a very, very, very special rope. But it's to keep your spirits within your body and not to leave again, to prevent it to leave your body again. So Shan Kwan is to bring your spirit back. It's similar to an exorcist, but it's to bring it
Yeah,
back, not out.
I always find a way. It wasn't the exact like the ceremony that Grandma C does, but I think they did show like a version of this in I Feel You Linger in the Air. Um in in episode I think it was episode 2 when John first starts working for Kunyai and his family. There is a moment where he has this confrontation with not confrontation, this conversation with Yai, and Yai is like, "Hey, it seems like you're." He says basically like it seems like your spirit is no longer with you, and he takes the white rope and he kind of does the little ritual and he ties it around his wrist, and we see Kem or Paran doing that for Kem at
Mm.
one point as well, and then with the rituals with Grandma C, we also see her, saying specifically to people, okay, like tie the bracelet for her, tie the rope for her. So I think we have seen that in different iterations in other series before.
Yeah. So we're
I
talking
always
about
find a
I Feel
way.
You Linger in the
There's
Air,
a
your
where there's a
favorite
will, there's a way
show.
to mention.
So when I'm not sure Dom Nongun's character went back to the present day, Kun Yai had to have a similar thing happen. So Sean Kwan in north of Thailand, you will say Hong Kwan. So it's like another dialect, but same thing happened in, yeah, you feel you linger in the air. So it a lot of representation of it have like shown in the series in a lot of episodes, but I definitely
Yeah.
see it most often in like period or like series. Like I Feel Linger in the Air, Khemjira. I'm gonna say I have seen it in, what is it called? Bupphe Sanniwat as well, but I'm not gonna confirm it because I think I've seen glimpses. It's not BL. It's a
When in shows, whenever they have the engineering students tie the thing around the wrist, is that a completely different thing?
so Saisin can be used in multiple things. You might have seen it in Paran's shrine where he always sits in. You might see there's like white ropes all over the room. That is also Saisin. So Saisin can be used for many things. You use it in Chon Kwan, you use it in a lot of spiritual like stuff. Sometimes I usually I have seven. So my birthday is on the 7th of December. So there's seven on my wrist on my birthday because seven people I respect tie it on my wrist to
Mm,
give blessing. So it's not like someone you don't know could give it to you. Like you might walk on the street and someone give you this. It's not gonna be possible. It has to be someone you respect or a monk who does it for you. But as a woman, you can't have that.
oh, interesting.
So in
Okay.
series where engineering students do them, you usually see seniors doing it
Right.
for the younger people. So out of respect usually. So like give blessing, give good luck.
That makes sense. Yeah, another example I thought of is they did it in My Magic Prophecy on New Year's. Top and In got their wrists tied by all of the elders in the village. And I think it was, once again, like someone older in the village, people that they respect, kind of giving them those like blessings for the New Year's and
Mhm.
things like that. So there is a lot of different examples of it in, I think, a lot of the media we've seen, just not the in-depth ritual that we see Grandma C performing when she does it in Khemjira.
I think it's one the white robe can be represented in multiple meanings. So that's why no one really explained what it actually means because it could mean different things in different rituals.
Yeah.
So moving into episode 5, one of the big things that we see happen in this episode is Kem tries to put a love spell that he got from Grandma C on Paran, and we see him. It obviously backfires. Paran catches him in the middle of trying to cast the spell, and it kind of sets them back a little bit and makes him act a little bit cold towards Kem again. But that was one of the big moments. We didn't get like they didn't. This is not one where like they didn't tell us like the spell or anything like that. I don't know if it's something that's specialized by Grandma
Well,
C.
in from my understanding, there isn't like a love spell that is on like a record. So I think the reason that they didn't explain it is because it wasn't like an official love spell. But I don't know. So there's a lot of controversies with love spells because it's one person commits and the other doesn't.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they haven't done a post on it. But there's a lot of people who find it funny because Grandma C is trying to like become
She's
Tinder.
shipping. She's shipping.
She's like the
She's
local Tinder.
jumping on the ship.
Yeah, a lot there. I remember there was so in Thai you usually call like BL fans "sao wai." You might have heard this phrase before. So they always say that Grandma C is "sao wai." So she's "sao wai" because Karan doesn't even have like a high tech phone. He's old, so he has like the button like Nokia phone. So that's the joke that's been running on. So she's becoming Tinder in real life, to be honest.
Not Tinder in real life. That's so funny. Yeah, and like when we say love spell, like it was more like I think she said specifically it was like so Kem could know how Paran felt about him. Like it wasn't necessarily to make Paran fall in love with him. But it was like if this man does have feelings for you, what Jet said is that like if he likes you, then like he will spend all night thinking about you because of this spell. And I guess kind of maybe bring his existing feelings to the forefront a little bit. But it's not like I'm gonna make Paran fall in love with me with this spell. It's just like playing on these feelings that we know were already there, but Kem wanted to know if they were there.
I think the part where they mentioned this is how I analyzed it. So by this episode, Kim already knows that Paran is his past life lover. So in the book, it always mentioned that Paran is someone who sticks with the present, so he doesn't linger
Yeah.
in the past. So but Kim is. So when he knows that, okay, I loved this man in my past life before, he might be my soulmate in this life, he kind of feels the need to get his point proven, from
He
what I
wants to
understand.
know. Yeah.
But Paran, you know, he's an old man. So he sticks with the present more. Sorry, thing, but like, but you know, Paran is someone who is respected by the community, so he's quite mature. So that means that it's not surprising that he will go against what Kim thinks and stick to his own, like, thought that, like, this life I might not marry, I might not have kids, I might not have a loved one. Yeah, stick with the present more, the lingering in the past.
Yeah. And I also think in the show, like, because of the way they sped up the timeline a little bit compared to the novel, we were kind of at the point where Paran was kind of like trying to deny his feelings because he knew, like, partially because Kem is like going through this curse, and also because Paran is a shaman and there are certain expectations. So I think he, like, I don't know if in denial is the right word, but knowing that Kem was trying to put this love spell on him, like, forced him to confront how he feels about Kem when he didn't want to do that at that point. So he was kind of like that. I feel like that also was kind of like part of like his almost angry reaction to Kem putting the spell on him, because he was being forced to like address these feelings that he is not ready to acknowledge yet by episode 5. He like does not want to acknowledge that they exist.
I think it's because of his, like, childhood as well, his parents and stuff. So it's not unusual that Paran would have that kind of thought,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's Paran, you
It's
know.
Paran.
The episode 5 and 6, I think, is the two episodes that rage bait me the most. Like, I have yelled at the TV screen so many times.
My favorite thing watching those episodes is like if you watch the cast reactions, every time Paran does something, Kang is like, "Why did you do that, Paran?" Like he tries so hard to like be like, "Hey guys, I'm not Paran. Like I don't like what he's doing." He's like, "How dare you do that, Paran?" Like he's trying to make sure everyone knows that like he is not Paran.
I
Kang is not
went,
Paran.
yeah, I went to the fan screening for episode 7. I think for that episode was
Yeah.
wow. But when I think there was a scene where Kim denies Pong, Ging stood up, and I could see
Yeah.
that he stood up very proudly, and I was like, this man. But
I remember seeing the clips of that.
I spent 3 episodes just purely just hating on Paran. I'm so sorry, but like, there was a reaction video of me and all my friends, and I was like, I wanna, like, I never wanted to be in a series so bad, so I can just like
Knock some. Come on, get it together,
get it
Paran.
together. This boy loves you. Just get it together. But I think it's
Yeah.
also, for me, I feel like it's also the acceptance that, like, Paran has a, like, he likes Kim as a male as well. So to admit that, like, he's not into women, like, like Prim, I
Yeah.
think it's very hard to, like, being accepted in like, in that society as well. But in the world of Khemjira, anything could happen, so it might be very well opened by at that point.
Yeah. That's always an element, I feel like, as well. At least from a realistic standpoint, I feel like that would always be an element. Like realizing you like someone of the same gender for the first time, same sex for the first time, is always like, you're like, oh, this means like something very, like, this is like a big deal in one's life. So, yeah, I get that. And then in episode 7, one of the big things we see here is Prim students putting on an artistic I don't know what I was just trying to say. Autistic.
Autistic?
I don't know what. I don't know. Listen, it's 12:30 in the morning. My words are not working.
12:30.
Um,
Wow.
Prim students put on an artistic rendition of the Holy Man's massacre, the Holy Man's rebellion. And we kind of see this like very artistic rendition of what happened to these people. And we also see like the spirits that the students are representing kind of showing up in that moment to protect the land and protect the people who are honoring their memory, because Rampung, of course, tries to show up and cause trouble, but she is unable to because the people from the Holy Men's Rebellion are like protecting that space and protecting the memory of them that is being honored by the students. And this is one of the ones that Damandi did kind of release a graphic to talk about the historical significance of like the Holy Man's Rebellion and like what it meant in the show and things like that. So it's an interesting, like, obviously, as someone who doesn't know Thai history, it was very cool to kind of see like something that happened like that be portrayed through the show, and also like to see like this artistic rendition of it that they put together for the series and stuff like that.
It's for me, it's really good. Like how I think this is the only one I read the English version of for the translation for Dumandi. They did very well explaining it in the series and also in their like social media platforms, because they did very well. I give my like wow, because I wouldn't be able to translate that completely how they did, because it's very sensitive topic, because it does exist. It's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people
It's
believe
actual history.
it's actual history. So it's it's spirits who have special abilities, or in Thai we'll say mi visha. So they learn spiritual like spells, or have more power than ordinary human beings. And when they passed, they still have these powers, and they became
Mm-hmm.
like the guardians of the area, of
Mm-hmm.
like the Holy Spirit and stuff. That's why Paran asked him to go introduce himself
Mm-hmm.
to the area, to the ghost of the area,
As an outsider.
as an
Mm-hmm.
outsider, so he would be able to gain protection from these ghosts, so they know
Mm.
who Kim is.
Yeah. Yeah, I really thought that, like, I just, that whole rendition I thought was like very beautifully done. I thought it was very, very moving to see. And it was an, yeah, I like thought Damandi's explanation of things was like very educational, which like in this instance is like a good thing. So it sucks that like I think they've only posted these on Twitter, unfortunately, like these graphics. And I know a lot of people don't have Twitter for a lot of reasons, but if you have access, like I would definitely recommend. They call it Paran's book, and it's basically just like certain elements throughout the show they have gone, and whether it's like a ritual or like the amulets or something like the Holy Men's Rebellion, they have gone through and kind of explain the significance of it. And we mentioned, certain ones that they've done here throughout the episode, but they also did a lot more for other elements that we've seen throughout the show. So I would recommend, like, if you're enjoying Khemjira and you're curious about like more of the cultural and spiritual elements, to go and read through those, except for the first one, which doesn't have an official translation, but you could always Google translate it and see what you can pull from that. But I thought it's very helpful, and it's like very cool to get like the backstory of things and the background on things. One of the things that I wanted to mention, that in the novel, one of the things that I really enjoyed about the novel is that they had like footnotes, at least for the English translation. And I don't know if they also did like the explanations in the Thai translation or the Thai release of the novel, but in the English translation they had footnotes explaining like every ritual, every incantation, all the spells, all the amulets, like what they were saying, what that significance is to the story. And obviously, like, you can't really translate footnotes like that to screen. Like, you can't. It's not easy to put a block of text explaining what things are, and it's not easy to work that kind of stuff into dialogue naturally, so I understand why it wasn't necessarily carried over to the show. But I feel like these little graphics from Demundi and from the Khemjira Twitter account are kind of like a way to somewhat make up for that and explaining some of the more significant like spiritual and cultural elements throughout the series. So I thought those were a really cool tidbit. The other thing Gamu had mentioned earlier, because we kind of got to the end of, we're recording this after episode 10 has aired. By the time it comes out, episode 11 will have aired as well. But one of the things that came up in episode 10 that you mentioned earlier with the spirit houses is when people use them for nefarious purposes, I guess, because we see in episode 10, in Paran's dream, we see, or no, it's not just in the dream. Rampung did actually, like, I don't know if infiltrate's the right word, like, she basically took over the spirit house that they had put on Kem's rooftop and used it as a way to get into his mind, because that spirit house was supposed to be protecting him while he was in his building. But because she kind of defaced it and I guess broke the protection that had been put on it, like it allowed her to get into Kem's mind and kind of we see retroactively that she had been in his mind and following him around throughout the entirety of episode 10. So you had kind of mentioned earlier that they can also be kind of I don't know, taken over is the only word I can think of, but I don't know if that's a good word to describe it.
Hmm. So I have to say first that the little shrines that we see throughout the series and throughout Thailand as well, if it's not done properly, so the blessing part of it is not done properly, you're it could be like a door to a dimension of like the evil spirit. So it houses other spirits. So it doesn't house good and like the spirits you should ask for blessings. It houses other things. But the thing I'm not gonna explain quite in depth is the meat in on the shrine. So it usually people put it on the shrine because they're trying to ask someone to do like a curse or something. So that would mean someone in that building wants Kim dead. But
Interesting.
I don't know if it's just how the story wants to represent it because it's quite similar to the series, but there wasn't like a mention of like a rotten piece of meat inside the shrine. So the best thing to do is to destroy the shrine and to just like do other rituals that doesn't involve housing the spirit. So that right now Rampung is cut out, but there will be no godly spirit protecting Kim anymore.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, that's kind of those are kind of obviously this whole show is based around ritual and spiritual and supernatural, but I feel like those are kind of some of the bigger ones that we pulled, that we felt like the audience might be curious about, bigger like explanations on or getting more context for. But to wrap it up, I kind of wanted to touch on, because this is technically our Halloween episode. It's a little bit different than the Halloween episodes we usually do. But like I said at the beginning, I think Khemjira is horror adjacent at the very least. So I wanted to kind of wrap up from a horror perspective, and ask the question, is Khemjira a horror series? So some of the horror elements that we see throughout the show that we've seen, tied with like horror media in general, of course there are ghosts and spirits and hauntings everywhere throughout this series. It's one of like the major supernatural elements of the show, along with possession, which we talked about a lot. Possessions are something we see a lot in horror media as well, and that kind of thing goes hand in hand with exorcism, like we talked about. There's a lot of, there's a whole horror movie called The Exorcism, so like that kind of stuff is often seen in horror media. We see some, not as much, but we do see some elements of body horror. The big one I could think of is in episode 9 when Grandma C is possessed and we see her head turn completely 180. And there's also just some like ghosts that are a little bit more icky in the representation that have some more like body horror elements through the makeup and stuff like that. There is like use of suspense and build up to jump scare moments that we see throughout as well, especially in the earlier episodes when Kem is getting, before they get to Paran, and Kem is getting like haunted and attacked by these spirits a lot more often, which is what kind of leads up to them going to Paran. We see a lot of jump scares in those early episodes. And then Kayla added in as Kayla, as our resident horror fan, added in some of the horror elements that they have seen that have been lifted from like more classic horror films, like blood coming from the pen while writing, which we saw happen in an early episode. Dream sequences akin to something you would see in like Nightmare on Elm Street. We see disregarding harbingers of danger, similar to the Blair Witch Project, and they also have like found footage elements, which is similar to the Blair Witch Project. Bleeding from the eyes is also something that I've seen in horror films, and it has strong, especially horror films that have strong ties to religious themes. Mimics and voices that imitate a loved one as a way to lure you towards danger, which we see Rampoon use that a lot, using the voice of Kem's mom to kind of try and lure him into her dimension and kind of lure him into danger. So those are the ones that we pulled that we kind of saw as what I think can be tied to a lot of like traditional horror media that we see as well. I think Khemjira is interesting because I know a lot of people, I see it labeled as a horror BL a lot. I think that has been a draw for some people, and I've also seen some people like stay away from the drama because they think it might be too scary for them. So I'm curious, I guess my final question that I kind of want to end on is, do you guys think Khemjira is a horror series?
I'll let Kayla, our resident horror fan, go first.
I'm curious on your opinion, Kayla.
Okay. Well, whenever I'm talking about this show with people, I call it a horror BL just out of convenience. I think the thing is there are so many different subgenres within horror, so not every horror movie is going to look the same. So like you have thriller movies, which are also horror, supernatural horror, slashers horror, like it all like is under this umbrella of horror. So for me, I think because I watched it and certain tropes that they were using, again, like I said, I noticed that they were lifted from a lot of classic horror films, or they're horror tropes that are used like over and over again. I lean towards it being like a supernatural horror. I wouldn't say it's horror adjacent. I would just straight up say like supernatural horror. But yeah, I just noticed like I was comparing it a lot to like media that I've seen before. So like I said, Nightmare on Elm Street, in that movie, the things that are happening to you in the dream happen to you in real life. And then like going into places that you're obviously not supposed to, but you go in anyway. Some of the scenes with like the bleeding and like around blood, it reminded me of, I don't know if anyone remembers this movie because it's very old, but this movie called Stigmata, that used to scare the hell out of me. It's like a movie based on like Christian stuff. I don't know. It used to scare me.
Interesting.
There were other ones I thought. The body horror also goes into this too. The body horror stuff reminded me of The Substance, which is a more recent movie that some people consider horror, some people don't. But I think because like I see so many of those elements in this series, and because there are ghosts in it and they go out of their way to make the ghosts be like scary and like threatening, towards the main character, like his life is in danger, these ghosts are going to get him, these spirits are going to get him. I do lean towards it honestly being a horror series.
Maybe I'm not the best person to answer this question because I feel like I find Mars Attack scary. So everything, well, I I watch horror, of course, but I think Khemjira is like when you call it a BL, I don't think it should stick with the word just BL. I think it
Mm.
should be consider a romance horror series.
Mm.
I would say it's a horror for me because it's quite new, and especially with series in Thailand, there's not many in the industry where
Mm-hmm.
horror is shown quite often, or like shown quite seriously. Because every time we see ghosts, like เขามาเชงเมนข้างๆหลุมผม or um the red envelope with the Bilkin PP one. Sorry,
Mm. Yeah.
Ghost is represented as like a comedy kind of in like a genre, like a comedy genre. But for Khemjira, I feel like when it comes to horror, it might not be 100% horror. So I have to
Mm-hmm.
put romance in as well because in the book, yeah, horror 100%, but in the
Mm.
series, romance is
Yeah.
one of the main plot. I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in my head, like, I guess I tie it more to the supernatural than I do to straight horror. But then, like Kayla, of course, you said like supernatural is also like a subgenre. Like there's supernatural horror. So like when I think of it that way, like I do think it exists within the horror genre. I think, yeah, I think like when I was watching it, like I obviously, like you said, like we said, there are a lot of like horror elements that are included in the show and are integral to the show, but I guess my brain always just latched on more to the supernatural and not really like integrating the two together, I guess. But like hearing you guys talk about it, like I definitely think supernatural horror, supernatural romantic horror, if we want to put three descriptors on it, are kind of what it falls into. But I don't think it's like straight, it's obviously not straight horror. And I think, especially as we get more into the storyline, we see a lot more focus on the spiritual and the supernatural elements with the horror linked in there. But I think they definitely do go heavier on the horror in the earlier episodes, and maybe that is a way to draw people in, like kind of emphasize like the vibe they're going with for the story. But yeah, so many of like those jump scares that I think of and a lot of those elements I feel like happen in the first like 2 to 3 episodes of the story, and then as we move on we still see them through in some ways through the possessions and things like that. But I feel like it ties a lot more into the spiritual as Puran comes into the story more and becomes more integral to the story. But yeah, I think supernatural horror is where I would land on it after listening to you guys, because like coming into this I was like more horror adjacent than just straight horror, which is what I said in the beginning. But I do feel like I agree with you guys that the horror elements are like having those elements in and of itself like makes it horror to some degree, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I also think that there is a lot of horror media that doesn't rely on jump scares. Like there are a lot that rely on, I guess, just like creating a haunting atmosphere rather than jump scaring you with things. I think of another comparison as like Midsommar. It relies more on like that haunting atmosphere and like these visuals that seem a little uncanny. They seem a little off, but it's not anything really like in your face. And I guess that kind of could be what it's like how the story's progressing on, and there's like less of that jump scare stuff. You still have like those elements of things just feeling a little creepy, things just feeling a little off, which is still very horror. I think maybe we could also throw psychological horror in the mix when it comes to Khemjira, depending on how you interpret certain scenes in the series.
Mm-hmm. I
Maybe.
mean, yeah, Rampoon really like fucks with Kem's mind. I feel like we especially see a lot of that in episode 10. Um, so there's definitely a lot of psychological elements in there, I would say. Yeah. I'm curious what the audience thinks how they would categorize it, cuz I don't know that I've necessarily seen discourse around it per se, but I think it is a show that kind of sits in so many different places that I'm curious to see like what they would associate it with first, I guess. So be sure to let us know how you would consider Khemjira in terms of genre, where you would kind of sit that series. But because it is Halloween season and people are often looking for the spooky this time of year, we just wanted to wrap up with a few other spooky shows to keep on your radar. A couple are upcoming, a couple are already out, and they might be things you want to put on your watch list as we get closer to Halloween. So the first one is not out yet. It will be starting on Halloween. So if you really want to get into the spooky vibes on Halloween, Goddess Bless You from Death is Change 2561's horror BL that is upcoming with Pavel and Pooh. So it also deals with it's like about like a murder case that is tied to curses and things like that. So that'll be starting on the 31st. Also starting on October 31st, which is not a BL, but is tied to a lot of BL actors, is Zombievor, which is also a Damundi series. It's the long-awaited zombie show from Damundi, which has so many of their actors, as well as actors outside of Damundi that are in the BL sphere. So I think a lot of BL fans are tuning into that one for all of the actors that are involved in it. Runaway the series, I just saw about this on social media like a couple days ago. It's a horror GL that's upcoming, but I could not find a synopsis for it to save my life. Apparently, it starts airing on November 4th, but they have not released like a trailer or anything yet, just a poster. But it is a horror GL, so if you want horror in the GL sphere, I would keep that one on your radar because it is supposed to be starting on the 4th of November. And then some of the shows we had that are already out that I think we always come back to recommending around spooky themes are Ghost Host Ghost House, which I don't think is super scary, but it is on theme because it is about ghosts. It's quite literally in the title. And I think it's an underrated series that Kayla and I both really enjoy. Something in My Room sits in the same vein. It is a romance between a ghost and a human. That is one, once again, Kayla and I have recommended a lot. Pixie's not a fan as our resident ghost anti, but since she's not here, we can hype it up as much as we want to.
We're taking over.
But yeah, Something in My Room is a series that we both really enjoy that I think is pretty underrated, but I would definitely recommend. And then Dead Friend Forever is the Beyond Cloud series. This one I have not watched, but Kayla has watched it, and they label it as like a slasher with supernatural elements, kind of with psychological horror elements as well. So I feel like that really fits into spooky vibes for the season if slasher, supernatural, psychological is in your vibe as well. So
The FF is very good, from in my opinion. I feel like it's a very good slasher movie to watch if you're, feeling tired with horror a little bit.
switch up the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say it's very easy to binge. I watched it in one night. So, just to give you an idea.
Damn, one night. Maybe Halloween night can be the night for people to watch that.
Mm.
Okay, so that is a wrap. That's it for our Halloween episode. be sure to let us know if you're watching Khemjira, what your thoughts are on the series, about the all of the different elements from the supernatural to the spiritual to the horror. Let us know what you're thinking about it. By the time this comes out, we will be just waiting for the finale. So we are coming to the end of the Khemjira journey. So I'd be curious to know what people's feelings are about the show as we go into the final episode. And of course, thank you, Gam, for joining us and offering your insight as a fan, as a Thai person, as a Khemjira enjoyer. We really appreciate you being here.
No problem. Happy to help.
Yes. So if you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as commenting, and share the episode with your other Khemjira watching friends. That kind of stuff always helps us out with the algorithm. You can also check out our Patreon, where we have early access to episodes, early access to reviews, as well as exclusive content like recaps. We're doing Revamp right now, which is also kind of Halloween, supernatural, horror, vampires. So, we got some spooky content over there. It's more in the campy vampire realm, but I'm still going to count it. We also have like exclusive Patreon episodes that we release over there, as well as a lot of other stuff. So if you're interested in our Patreon, you can check it out. It is another great way to support the show. But that is going to be all for this year's Halloween episode. And we will see you guys back in another episode soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.